and welcome into the Credible Vets Report, gang. My name is Craig Slate, joined by my consistent co-host, Mr. Matt Mandel. Thank you guys for joining us all. This week's episode, you know what? We're going to be updating on the weather. The weather lovers we are, we're going to update there. You know, we got old Hurricane Francine made landfall on Wednesday, and we're going to break down. Did that mean anything to the produce industry? We'll see. Plus, more inflation, the other thing we become lovers of, or at least lovers to talk about, or fan favorites, or whatever you want to call it, is the inflation reports. But it's showing good signs of cooling down at supermarkets. But will customers or consumers see those same signs when purchasing food elsewhere? And we're underestimating the power and price of a single line. So hang in there, gang, and stay here for the show. We're ready to go. Welcome, Matt. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, doing very well. Although I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm stuck in an episode of Groundhog Day.
Yes.
I got a little bit of deja vu here, almost as if you and I did a full recording of a Credible Vegetable Report to an audience of two.
I had the same feeling. It's weird.
It's like I've done this before today.
I don't know.
Like maybe within the last half hour.
Yeah. So
do you want to let folks in on a little secret or trick of the trade?
I'm gonna let them in, yeah, because I thought it was a good idea for us to have a practice round. Apparently, my dumb ass didn't hit the record button, so Matt and I recorded an entire episode that no one will ever hear. So, if this is not our best one ever, then we may have to give this whole gig up, given the fact that we've had a full round of practice. So we'll see.
Unfortunately for you, the viewer, it was amazing.
It was. It really was good. I mean, in fact, I'm playing it back in my mind as we go through. I just hope that I don't stumble over the conversation. I'm so charged up by that. So, well, look, I understand, because I have talked to you for about 45 minutes before this, that you may be a bit sore over there. Is that right?
Just a little bit. Going back to the old favorites here. We've talked pickleball more than a couple times. So I get up yesterday morning. I get on the bike, do a nice long hour ride, and then turns out I forgot it's Wednesday. And what do we do Wednesday nights? We pickleball. So apart from having my hour-long workout in the morning, I got to do pickleball last night. Played with some people that were far better than me and far better than the competition the last time I played. So I got some soreness in my ankles. I'm more of a steady state cardio guy, running, cycling. So the stopping and starting is a little hard on my joints. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, very, very good. Well, hope you're getting game enough to match up with me and go at it. I mean, I will tell you that, in New Mexico, they take pickleball to the next level. I mean, these folks are serious. I've had my ass kicked 2 or 3 times, more than 2 or 3 times. I feel like that, the guy that I thought I was, the player that I thought I was, I am not that guy. I realize that maybe I am subpar in the pickleball game.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I'm hoping that you're a newbie, that I actually, that's really going to be embarrassing if, I challenge you to this pickleball game and you get out there and, wipe the floor with me. But we'll see.
Well, I was told last night it's a good thing that I'm athletic because my skill level isn't there. So we'll see.
Wow.
I'll cover the whole court. Whether I can actually hit the ball in or not is a different story.
Well, as luck would have it, on this second round of this episode, I don't know. Can you hear I don't know if they're spraying for mosquitoes, bugs, or can you hear my background noise? Good.
I hear nothing. Good. You sound crystal clear.
Perfect. Well, I've got it going on here, and I'm breathing in some kind of chemical. So if I fall over dead here in a minute, that's why. So that'll kind of end the show at that point. But
and we're signing off.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, let's get into the show, Matt. What do you say?
Let's do it. You want to start it off with, I don't know, the weather?
Well, weather should be a good place to start, and let's start out with Hurricane Francine made landfall over in Louisiana Wednesday night. Apparently left thousands without power, dumped a ton of rain. Came on ashore as a Category 2 storm before it got downgraded to a tropical storm. And based on the old weather maps there, it looks like it's heading right up through the eastern side of Arkansas, up into the I guess the northern east part of the United States. Is that fair to say?
It's heading up through Central America, central part of the United States, not Central America, and it will continue to make its way northward, bring with it quite a bit of precipitation. The good news, from a I guess a demographic standpoint, it actually landed west of New Orleans. Rather than bringing the winds and precipitation directly over the city. However, with the amount of rains that it did bring, there is quite a bit of flooding. Sounds like the Mississippi is overflowing, and while New Orleans still is haunted by the ghost of Katrina, thankfully it did not make a direct landfall over the city. That said, there is quite a bit of flooding. You're going to have logistical disruptions in the area, and all of that rain is going to continue to make its way north and affect quite a bit of the local production in that area.
Well, now, so is it, when you talk about, like I say, the eastern part and Arkansas and then up into that area, I mean, there's not that much going on this time of year. Is that right? I mean, there's probably some, onions or potatoes, that kind of thing for the fall stuff. But is there much in way of that would be affected by this kind of weather?
I think there is still a decent amount of domestic tomato production. And once you get north of there, you're really talking more corn and grains until you get up into the Michigan area. As we talked the first time we recorded this, a lot of those crops are getting towards the depending on the amount of rainfall that comes, it may definitely signal the end of some of these crops.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those crops winding down when we get into the market report a little later. And then heat still a factor, particularly out west there. Arizona still a little toasty, and California, I believe that they've had some pretty high temps, at least on the eastern part of the state for sure. But there's some fire danger starting to be dry. I mean, Tucson, I know, has had a decent amount of rain for this year, but how is the heat, and is it extreme? Is it dry? Is it getting better?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely dried up. We haven't had any significant rain for a few weeks now, and then the temps have been over 100 degrees pretty much every single day for the last 2 weeks. It's looking like we talked about Francine. We will talk about another storm that is developing right now, but I'm hoping that today is actually going to be the last 100-degree day of the year, and we'll finally start to see some cooler temperatures. And actually across most of the Western United States, the next week should be finally starting to cool off a little bit. The 2-week forecast actually has temperatures kind of eking back up again compared to seasonal norms. But the extreme heat that we've been suffering in the West does look like it's finally coming to an end. Now, why? Obviously, seasonally, temps are coming down, but just off the southwest coast of Mexico, there is a storm. It actually was an unnamed formation up until a couple hours ago. It was upgraded to Tropical Storm Ileana.
Okay.
The initial reports of Ileana actually had it veering off to the west of Baja, but in the last 24 hours, the track of the storm has moved eastward. The Gulf of California, the water there is much warmer than the water out in the Pacific. So obviously storms are going to be attracted to the heat of the water. That's how they gain their strength. That's where they pick up their precipitation. So as the track continues to move eastward, it's actually looking like this storm will make its way into the Gulf of California. Now, right now, the storm track is going over southern Baja, right over Cabo, where it's looking like it is going to cross as a tropical storm, not a hurricane. Then it will land in the Gulf. However, whenever storms do travel over land, they decrease in speed, they decrease in intensity. And assuming the storm makes its way over to the Gulf, at a lower intensity, it will most likely not form into a hurricane. That said, over the last 24 hours, the track has continually moved eastward. This system is moving fairly quickly. So the likelihood that it will make a full-scale shift to the east and hug the mainland Mexico is not likely. But either way, this is going to bring quite a bit of precipitation to West Mexico. Depending on the track and where it actually makes landfall, whether it's still a full-blown system, whether it turns into a depression, kind of falls apart in the Gulf, remains to be seen. But there will be a lot of rain coming to the Culiacan area and north, which is good in the sense that we've talked many times that they are under extreme water pressure. Now, depending on how quickly the storm is moving is going to determine how long it sits in any of these locations and how much rain it will dump. Whether it stays out over water or makes its way inward to land will also determine how much of that precipitation will actually reach the crops and whether or not it's going to have an outsized effect on production, or it's just going to bring, a little bit of rain, not much water relief to these drought-stricken areas.
Well, there's a lot there, buddy. So that storm is either going to be good, bad, or both, sounds like. In a nutshell.
I would assume it's going to be a combination of the two. Obviously from a production standpoint, I hope it does stay out over the Gulf. While we do need water, we need water a little less than we need crop destruction at this point in the game. But it is looking like it will make landfall kind of halfway between Culiacan and Hermosillo, the southern tip of Sonora and just north of Sinaloa, which is good in that most of the crops in that area are not established yet. So it's not going to affect anything that might already be in the ground. And hopefully that it'll bring just enough precipitation to hopefully help out the water situation a little bit, but not be destructive to crops.
Well, and ideally it should bring some cooler temperatures to that Hermosillo area as well. So they definitely could use some of that. Well, speaking of cooling, and we've talked about it before, we're weather favorite guys, and apparently we're inflation favorite guys because we're going to talk inflation again, Matt. CPI index was out this week, the consumer price index, and it continued to cool, right? So it reached a new 3-year low this week at 2.5% for the month of August. And that's based on from a year earlier, notable reduction in percentage back all the way to 22. Back in 2022, the peak was 9.1%. So definitely much better. July was 2.9%. So we're starting to see moderation in that. There are some signs of some stubbornness. There's some areas in the inflation data that like I say, won't go away. But you know what? Me and you and I, we talked last week about the Fed, and the Fed's going to be meeting next week, and everybody's certainly going to cut at some level. And I think I was in the camp of a 50 basis point cut. I believe you were 25 basis point cut. I'm going to have to take my tent and move it to your camp because based on the fact that CPI is at 2.5%, that's close enough to old Mr. Chairman Powell's target rate, or the Fed's target rate of 2%. And I think, as you mentioned last week, with election and concerns of looking too favorable, they're likely going to stick to that 25 basis point reduction next week. So hats off, Matt. I'm moving over to your side of the town on the inflation call, or the Fed call.
I'll chalk that up as a win. The interesting thing in this data is while most items and across the board Inflation, obviously, at 2.5%, prices are continuing to go up. However, if you actually start to dig into some of these categories, you'll actually notice fruits and vegetables are down 0.2%. So there's a slight deflationary effect in the fruits and vegetables category at the retail store. Doesn't seem that consumers are feeling that just yet. While it's good that hopefully that'll mean consumers buy more fruits and vegetables, what it does not help are farmers and the people that are actually growing these crops. Obviously, we want fruits and vegetables to be accessible at the grocery store level, yet we need to make sure that with this deflationary period, well, yes, it is, just a 1 month change. We need to make sure that whatever inflation has been built in at the retail level, some of that translates back to returns to the farm. We'll talk about that a little later in the show, but the inflation at the farm level in terms of inputs has not subsided. We've noted over the last 2 to 3 years, just about every single input into the process has gone up and gone up substantially. So, hopefully it is good news for consumers, but we need to make sure that that deflation at the retail level doesn't get pushed down onto the producers.
Yeah, and I think that's always the thing. They do these inflation reports, and the government talks about, "Hey, great, we're getting inflation down," but you lose sight of the fact that, well, it's a cumulative, right? So you talk about the inputs, right, and all those price increases in the fertilizers and the different inputs that go in, they're not coming down, right? So what you were paying 2 years ago is definitely higher 2 years later because it's cumulative. Same thing with consumers, right? It's not like your Chipotle is not getting cheaper. Chipotle is definitely significantly higher. It may not be going up as fast, but it's definitely higher than it was 2 years ago. And so that's always the deal with this inflation thing. It's like, well, great, it's not going up as fast, but we're still paying substantially more if you look at it on a cumulative effect. And but things that did keep going up, I mean, these are things that people can't get away from, right? You mentioned produce going down, but you look at motor vehicle insurance, it was up 0.6%. And and these numbers, although they sound small, which 0.2, 0.6, those are small, but when you're talking about the amount of dollars and what it really means on a month over month basis, that's on an annualized rate, that's a pretty big jump. When you think about 0.6 or 0.2 in decline on the produce. But yeah, motor vehicle insurance, you look at rent was up 0.4%. The things that people have to do or continue to put pressure out there and continue. It's changing the game. It's changing the game on how the world's going to look over the next 12 to 14 months, 15 months.
Yeah. And I mean, we were talking about what the Fed rate change may be. While 2.5% is closer to their target, as you mentioned, over the last few years, the inflationary pressures have just continued to go up. A lot of these numbers that they've released, like the jobs report, they've gone back and revised it, and they've revised it down. It's not nearly as good as what they originally said it was. So it could very well be that a lot of these factors, are cooling much faster than they expected. And so with these numbers, kind of being revised retroactively, while I still do think because of the political nature of the timing, it will be 0.25. I think it would be smarter for the Fed to be lowering rates faster than, a quarter point change, at their meetings.
Well, it's typically a no-win game. I mean, I don't know. It seems absurd to me to think that we can have as diverse and complicated as the economy is. It's absurd to think that a handful of people, as intelligent as they are, can actually move a single component of that complex economy and really know what the hell they're doing. it seems absurd to me. I'll save for another show my rant on my disdain for the Fed. But anyway, speaking of something I don't have a disdain for, which is Toast, but we're not going to talk about Toast. We're going to talk about a company called Toast, and they are an all-in-one digital platform that's built for restaurants. So I'm not super familiar with them. I know a little bit about them, but they had a Q2 2024 restaurant trend report. And it's continue along this line of inflation that we're talking about. But they broke out. Now, this is a report that they put out. It's a year-over-year price change for popular lunch foods at quick-serve restaurants. And, what struck me is, for the folks eating tacos at lunch, on a percentage basis, you are paying your price year over year has gone up substantially, almost 6% increase in your taco purchase price year over year. That's pretty.
The headline screams: tacos are more expensive. When you start digging into the data, of all the categories that they released here. Tacos were already on the lower end. So it may seem that, while the same price increase category over category, it may have been similar on a gross amount. As a percentage, it is much higher on tacos because they are already at the lower end of the price scale. But two items that had the lowest percentage change were hot dogs, which is great for barbecues in summer months, but salads. Happy to report that salads had the second lowest year over year percent change at only 2.7%. Considering all of the inflationary numbers that we've reported here over the last however many months, many of the inflationary indicators are much higher than that. So for salads to only go up 2.7%, again, good for consumers, good for consumption of those items. However, not necessarily good, again, for the returns to the farms in that, likely the percent increase in the cost at the retail level is not going to translate into an equal increase in the return to the farm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, certainly the price moderation in produce is a good thing for consumers. It does make it difficult on the farming side. But before we leave this subject of lunch, one, I'm thinking to myself, who the hell's eating a hot dog for lunch on a regular? But then I'm thinking, well, I guess in New York, if you're stumbling around on the streets there, you got the hot dog guy. If you're sliding into a 7-Eleven, you're grabbing a hot dog. And there are a few hot dog stands around, I guess, stores. But, you know about McDonald's or Burger King, about hamburger places. But really, the hot dog thing for lunch, it's not, I don't know. I wouldn't have recognized that as being a big category, but they did. But one thing that is new or it's a big thing out there, and that's this freaking noodle and ramen deal. Man, Matt, if you're eating noodles and ramen for lunch, you're busting out $14 for a bunch of noodles. Are you
quick serve restaurants? No less. I'm more of an instant ramen kind of guy. I don't tend to eat out on a regular basis, and when I do, noodles and ramen are definitely not at the top of my list. But $15 at a quick serve restaurant, what does that mean for your average, your normal sit down type restaurant? That's definitely on the pricier end, and with nearly 4% year over year change, that category is going to continue to outpace its competitors as far as the average meal cost goes.
Yeah, I just like to share with the listeners a public service announcement. Go eat a salad. It's like $11 to $12. The health benefits are going to be like off the charts better than a bowl full of noodles, and you're going to be saving somewhere between $3 to $4 at lunch a day. And that adds up over time. So let's eat some more salads, right? I think that's what we should do here. Give up the hot dog. I know it's cheaper. Give it up. Go up the health scale. Go up a little bit in price. It's the way to go. More salads.
Help out more farmers in the process.
And help out more farmers in the process. Do your part.
Our next story actually involves our farming community and some some not great news. So, Craig, how do you know when agriculture is in a recession? Do you
Well,
know?
Matt, I'm going to guess, and then we're going to get some, I guess, facts. I don't know what these are, but it's at least what somebody wrote down. So we're going to call them facts since we're considering the source credible. But you know what? Here's how I'm going to know agriculture is in a recession: when they start to make less money.
That's a pretty damn good synopsis
That's
of this particular issue here. You know,
it,
there's two main drivers, obviously. The biggest thing is when you have several economic indicators all in a decline at the same time. You know, we
okay.
we had a story, I don't know, a couple months back where we talked about the decline in farm income in the United States. And the change from 21 to 22 and then 22 to 23 was the largest 2-year drop in history when it comes to normalized farm income. And the USDA is actually forecasting an even greater decline from 23 to 24, making the decline from 22 to 24 the largest drop in history, breaking
Damn.
the record that was just set the previous 2 years. You know, how does this happen? We've talked about inflation. Your costs are going up at the farm level. Every single input continues to go up, and then couple that with declining prices, and not necessarily prices. Obviously, we talked about retail prices, but retail prices going up do not translate into money making it back to the farm. And so, higher costs, lower sales prices, and it's the perfect storm for these farms to really be in a hurting spot right now.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. I think people don't realize that in the ag space, still and this report takes in the cattle industry, pork industry, grain, specialty crops, all of it. Right? It takes into look at all that, and people don't realize it's still a heavily market based industry. Right now, in some of those bigger groups, I mean, they're trading on the Chicago board. They're trading futures, but even still, that's technically still a market base because they're not paying necessarily what the input costs were or what it costs to get business done, and they're paying what the market will bear based on what the expected demand is. And so, it's it's an industry, it's a business that really depends on markets delivering, and if they don't deliver against what they had to put in it, you find a agriculture in a recession, and frankly, you wind up having people go out of business. The only way the market can adjust, you got to have less supply to drive up the demand. So, it's a concerning data point when you look at it. When you talk about the American farmer and you start to look at ag in general, when you see record-setting declines, that's a bad deal. And also contributing to that, the export piece has not been good either, slowing exports. Trade deficit has been declining. They forecast, USDA forecast this year, that U.S. ag deficit will be $42.5 billion in 2025. So all the things not looking good for right now, the ag space in the U.S. of A., at least financially.
Definitely praying that that changes and changes quickly. These are the people that feed America and put food on our table. So we need something to change and change fast. We can't have the ag industry, go out of business, so to speak, in the U.S.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, let's hit to the retail side of it real quick. Aldi has got some big plans. They're going to be putting some people to work. Press release they had this week, they're going to be hiring more than 13,000 store and warehouse employees across the nation as it prepares for its upcoming holiday season. So for folks ready to, take themselves and get ready for the Christmas season so they can buy all those fabulous gifts, Aldi's is looking for you, 13,000 employees. But not only, Matt, are they going to be hiring for that holiday season, they got a $9 billion plan to open 800 new stores across the U.S. With this growth, they're looking to add more than 49,000 employees to aid in this growth and fuel quicker and easier, more affordable shopping experience that their shoppers know and love. So, yeah, big news coming out of Aldi, big dollars, 9 billion is not a small number. And, yeah, 800 stores, that's not small growth.
Well, just a quick correction. Their current employee base is 49,000. They're looking to add 13,000, which is, a 25% increase, which is huge for these guys, right? So
I got you. Yeah.
I mean, either way, these numbers are huge and they're staggering. And I've been in all these stores. I'm not an Aldi shopper. They're not doing anything crazy and innovative at the store level, but they rely heavily on price, which I think, with all of the things we've talked about, these inflationary pressures, low prices is winning right now. And they're doing it right. They have, from what I understand, smaller margins on a lot of their items. They definitely are a no frills type shopping experience, and it seems to be working out well for them.
Yeah, no, I have shopped back when I lived back in Dallas, and would go to Aldi. If I wasn't shopping, I would be out in the parking lot picking up bass carts and collecting a quarter, because you got to give a quarter to get a bass cart, and people don't want to take the cart back. Well, there's guys like me that come along and make a few extra bucks just cleaning up the carts. But not only that, it is a store that's ran with like 3 employees. Seriously, from the checker to the stocker, the whole deal. It's like 3 people are there on a regular, and it may be 1 or 2 more. But either way, very efficient, very price conscious. Yeah, it's for the right person, for the right people. It's not a bad shopping experience, as long as you don't mind sacking your own groceries and taking over a little bit of work and picking up the bass cart out of the parking lot. You can do okay at Aldi.
Yeah, now you say bass cart? Is that a Texas phrase?
I don't know where I heard. No, they probably would shoot me in Texas for saying that, because nobody says bass cart in Texas. I don't know where I came up with that, but I've gotten to where that's the way I call it. Because is it a basket? What would you call it?
Yeah, no, a shopping basket. Even though technically the basket is your handheld, I guess, shopping cart.
So yeah, I mean, shopping cart, I guess I could get away with. That's where I got bass cart, because most people call it a basket. It just
It's a half and half.
It's definitely not a Texas term. Like I say, they would probably ours is probably something that nobody would understand. And but I don't know how I got on that, Matt. Don't know where that came from. But here's what I do know: things are changing out there in the retail landscape, or at least consumers are changing a little bit based on merchandising and how people are presenting fresh produce out there in the retail space. And they're changing where they're buying it. I think we've talked a little bit about this, but traditional grocery stores, they generate 41.1% of all produce sales dollars in 2023. That is down. And again, these aren't huge if you look at it percentage base, but it's down from 41.6. So a 0.4% or 0.5% drop there in that number. That's doesn't seem like much, but when you're talking about the dollars in the grocery industry, that's a big damn number. And the group that's picking that up, that's your Costco's, your mass operators, Sam's, Costco's, and then the super centers, the super Targets, the Walmarts of the world. They're making gains, and they rose to 20.1% from 19. So it looks like people are finding their produce, not just at your traditional grocery store.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the focus of the article was really about demographics and, how tailored you want to be or should be at the retail level in order to try to bring in those shoppers. And realistically, there is no one size fits all. But if you look at the Walmarts of the world, I'd say 90% of their produce section is going to be standardized across all of their stores. They may have, some regional differences, but, it's looking like just stick to what works, your core items, and do them well, and, keep them at prices that consumers can count on. That seems to be the winning recipe based on the numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of winning numbers, Kroger had their report out today, and and they posted up some winning numbers. Identical store sales, not counting fuel, was this is their second quarter report, 1.2% across sales across same store sales. Operating profits, $815 million. They also grew their digital sales. We talked a little bit about Walmart and the success they're having in the digital space. Well, Kroger is doing pretty well there. Also, they grew that 11%. Now, Matt, that's all great news if you're a stockholder. That's great news if you're Kroger. But it's not great news if you're trying to merge and become the largest grocery retailer in the country, and you have the current administration on your ass for what they call price gouging. So as good as this report is, as good as it is for stockholders, I'm not sure how it's going to play with DC.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to say that you need to merge in order to gain efficiencies when you're posting these fantastic looking profit numbers, and you and I have talked. They're doing something. They're doing something right to be doing this, and more power to them. And we want companies that succeed. We don't need to have DC stepping in, but they've already indicated that this is one of the things they're going to be looking at. So while it's great for Kroger, I don't know that it's great for consumers. However, the market will determine exactly what happens at the end of the day, and if their pricing is going up faster than their competitors, then slowly the competition will find alternatives.
Yeah, no, 100% on that. I mean, the government needs to step out. Obviously they got to look at the merger piece. I get that and worry about that, but as far as trying to figure out who's price gouging, who's not, let the market decide, right? If the prices get too high, people quit shopping. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not some space that I think they should be in for sure. But, hats off to Kroger. God bless them. Hats off to the stockholders that are in that space as well.
So maybe, I'm just going out on a limb here. Maybe Kroger's success is entirely due to the lime category.
Why do you think that, Matt? What's up with the lime?
I mean, they're posting these great sales numbers.
Yeah,
and it turns out the lime category is doing fantastic in terms of pricing.
Is it really?
Huh? That's what they say. That's what they say. Markets on a 40-pound box are somewhere right around $40. Roughly $1 a pound. The smaller boxes anywhere $10 to $15, but thanks to seasonal rains, we talked about Hurricane Francine was sitting off the eastern coast of Mexico, obviously tropical area where quite a bit of limes are grown. The projections are saying there's going to be a $10 a box price hike due to this rain.
Already on top.
That's
of
on the big boxes.
Yeah,
that's on the big boxes, and a $5 price hike on a smaller box. So roughly 50% increase.
Yeah, that's a 50% on that. Yeah,
that's spicy. That's going to be hard to swallow. Obviously limes are very susceptible to rain, not necessarily in the destruction of fruit per se, but your quality is going to go down. The amount of off grades that you have, the amount that need to be sent to processing for juicing, going to be going up. So, it makes sense that you wouldn't have the same price increase on your number one fruit, typically what goes in those smaller boxes versus what goes in the larger boxes. But if you're in the lime business, pricing is definitely looking like it's going to go way up.
Hopefully you've got product. That's always the thing. You want to be the farm with product when the markets are like this. You don't want to be the one that's helping create the shortage.
Well, sun-fed perfect limes are out of stock at the moment, so it's not.
So we're not getting to enjoy it. Yeah, we're not getting it to enjoy it for sure. But hey, so since you kicked off the market discussion, let's get into the dry veg space. Let's talk a little cucumber action. Looks like the folks up in the Michigan area, they're winding down this week on their stuff. In fact, I think a lot of that northeastern stuff is starting to come to a close across the dry veg space. Anybody that's outdoor with the rain and with the cooler temps, it's about that time of year for them to slow up and things to move south. What are you hearing on the cuke deal?
Yeah, I mean, on super select, you're still looking mid-20s, but we talked last week. This is the start of the transition period. You got a bunch of weather coming through for those crops up in Michigan, depending on how far north this weather system from Francine goes. What could be a slow end could be a very quick end to some of these crops. Couple the fact that you got weather, you got transition. These markets are already high. I think in the short term, markets could actually creep a little higher over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The cuke deal, as we expected, stayed strong through most of the summer. We had one dip area in there, but yeah, they're probably going to come up a little bit over the next few weeks as they traditionally do, and then. We're going to be starting cukes relatively early out of Sonora. I think we're probably a week early, so I think we'll see cukes coming out of there maybe as early as the last week of September. So that's going to start to bring in some more production and probably moderate prices a little bit in that space. But I don't see anything over the next 3 or 4 weeks that gives reason to believe that it's going to be coming down for sure.
No. And
what else is starting in? Yeah,
seasonal changes.
Yeah, what else is going on in Sonora?
Drum roll, please.
Yeah.
While this is not market wide, Sunfed actually received its first manifest of inbound squash from Sonora. The season is here. The market there is pretty much been steady Eddie the last couple of weeks with the Zook, $8 to $12 typically on the higher end of that, depending on quality. Gray squash continues to remain strong, 14 to 16. Yellow squash, at least a solid 16. But again, transition period, supplies are inconsistent, quality is inconsistent. So it would not surprise me if, as is usual this time of year, that market is going to be inching higher over the next couple of weeks. With Tropical Storm Ileana that we talked about coming through, coupled with the fact that it's been so damn hot in Sonora over the last few weeks, the crop is likely to get off to a slightly slower start. While it is earlier than normal, I would assume that supplies out of Sonora will continue to be inconsistent for the next 10 days, 2 weeks until it gets its footing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for those out there listening, I think in that squash space, you can always pretty well count on September being a pretty strong month, and there's no reason to indicate that it won't be. Depending on how this weather works, as you just mentioned, it could actually spike it a little more than normal. But the one thing for looking out, I think October stands a good chance of actually being unseasonably strong. As well. So that'll be interesting to see how that all develops out. But squash space definitely needs it. We need some strong markets to make up for some of those input costs that we're putting into it, because that stuff has not gotten cheaper. I don't care where in the hell inflation's at. It's still costing a hell of a lot more than what it's typically getting on the market space. And so something's got to change there. But one crop that's done pretty well through the summer, and it's still holding in pretty good, and that's the green bell space. And those folks are still hanging in.
For sure, bells. Well, we did talk about the fact that over the last 3 weeks or so, the market has been in decline. It's been in decline from a market level where it historically had not been. So it's coming back into what the market's historically been for this time of year. Anywhere from $16 to $20 on number one fruit. Supplies out of California seem to be holding steady with good quality. East Coast supplies not quite as consistent. So I expect the market most likely. While it has come back down, I think it's going to stay probably for the next week or so in this range, and then it'll likely start to creep back up as the transition period continues to rear its ugly head.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's right. And I think ideally, like I say, we'll see some relatively moderate to fair pricing on the green bells through the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Eggplant, real quick on that dude's still hanging in at $20. Love for that to hang that way for the next, call it 12 months. That'd be good. If we could just call it a $20 bill and go home.
I think we just decided that's a new norm. Everybody, $20 a box on eggs. Let's do it.
So exactly. I think that's a good price. But no, it has been, which that's one of those that summertime, it's just really hard to grow a good eggplant. If you're in an area that's got volatile weather, it's hard enough to grow it when you're on the western part of North America, whether it's California or the Baja. It's hard enough to get good stuff, but at least you got much better weather to contend with and typically have better success. But that market's been strong, continues to be strong for the eggplant deal, and hopefully that's a thing to come for the future. And I don't know, that's about all I got, Matt, in terms of markets that's out there. Anything that's, shake rather than roll. We talk, tomato deal, we usually bring up Romas and rounds and that kind of stuff. In that space, they're not anything crazy, but they're in pretty normal pricing, $12.95, $13.95 for the most part on the Roma deal. So I don't know. It's what I got on the market space.
Yeah, not a whole lot to add, but we got to mention that we are mid-September, and everybody knows those markets, October, November, December, on the tomato space do make their way northward. So I would expect tomatoes to be getting closer to that $20 bill sometime over the next couple of weeks, and anywhere from $18 to $22 is an average price, if you will, in the months of October, November, and then December. Really depends on how quickly the Culiacan deal can get ramped up. But I would, with the water woes and all that we talked about, growers, kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens, it would not surprise me if the tomato deal in December was a little extra spicy this year.
I 100% agree, for sure. All right, brother. Well, look, before we call it quits, I apologize to my boys. I brought my jersey out. Dak and the boys got off. Matt, I know it pains you, but it looks like we're on our way to the Super Bowl once again.
All right. Everybody mark it. September 12th. Craig called it. The Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl. Every year, them boys.
I think last week I had them going 50-50, and then I watched one game, and now we're going to the Super Bowl. It takes one game, right?
Typical Cowboys fans. This is your year. We'll talk in week 4 and see how they're doing. But as of right now, they are undefeated. As are my Lions. 1-0.
Yeah, they are. Lions got off. That's a great game. A couple of really good games. Tonight should be a good game with Miami and Buffalo. So, yeah, the NFL, so glad to have it back. I know some people hate on it, but it's a good product. But, you talk about the boys. So Jerry bought them for $700, $800 million. They're the top rated, the most valuable franchise in the NFL. By a long shot. I think it's $11 freaking billion. It's just a ridiculous number. So that just goes to prove the fact, Matt, as much as you and all the Cowboy haters, it is America and Mexico and Canada and all of North America, and then some people from over in Europe's team, right? We're no longer just America's team, baby. We're the the world freaking team.
So I just thought I'd put that in. Go ahead and say, this is a perfect time to end the show. I can only take so much Cowboys talk.
Well,
but
I think your head coach has got some alliance with the Cowboys, doesn't he?
My head coach got some alliance with the Cowboys
at the Detroit Lions. At the Detroit Lions?
No, he was
never part of the Cowboy organization. I thought he was
Played
part.
for
I
the
thought he was
Lions,
a
well.
coach. I thought he was a coach for the Cowboys at one time.
That it's news to me. I'm not saying you're wrong, but
Oh,
it's news to
all
me.
right.
Well,
Well, see, I like
check
him a
in
whole
with us
lot
next
because,
week.
because I believe that. I believe that. I liked him a whole lot more than maybe I do now. So I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, for sure. Well, look, why don't you get us out of here, Matt? Because you're way better at the clicks and likes and all that bullshit that you're supposed to do at the end of these shows.
Ladies and gentlemen, please hit that like button, subscribe to the show, check us out on all the social medias, check us out on LinkedIn, YouTube's, everything. We're out there, but most importantly, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. Any comments you have for us, tell us how bad we suck, tell us how awesome we are, tell us what we need to do better. But throw some comments down there. And until next time, I'm Matt Mandel.
And I am Craig Slate.
And thanks for tuning in.
Are out of here, friends.